Okay, so this is part 5 of an 8-part series where I basically explain what I was doing over the 5 months and how I felt or what I remember most about each country that I went to. Part 1 was Kenya, part 2 was Zambia, part 3 was Ghana, part 4 was Laos or Lao, and part 5 is now going to be Cambodia. So I was in Cambodia for 3 weeks and I was working at an orphanage. Um, in total, from the fundraising activities before I left, £933 and 48 pence was raised. In Cambodia, £80 and 51 pence was basically used to buy books. And it's amazing how many books you can buy. So they're all used for books. We always use a bit of that money for a farewell movie party with popcorns and fizzy drinks and just a nice final day before I left. But pretty much 90% of that money was used on books. And these are just academic books to sort of help the kids learn English, because I think what I noticed was they lived in an orphanage. It was an orphanage being sponsored by a Christian group. So a lot of the books they had were just Christian books. They didn't really have any books on how to learn English. And I just thought, well, seeing as they've got loads of volunteers coming in, it will sort of be nice for the volunteers to have a resource that they can use to help these kids learn English. So I bought quite a few books and shared them out. But basically, the main activity there was, one could say, childcare and teaching. And I guess, I think in all the locations that I've worked, where I've worked with kids or elderly people, I've really felt energized and happy, and almost happy by how happy they are in their current situation. You know, it's you have in the orphanage, it was a family. It was a family of kids. The older ones took care of the younger ones, and the younger ones were just happy and free. And you'd have, Ty was one little kid who I was teaching him his ABC. He understood me to some degree, not a great deal, but he was happy. And, when we played the ABC games, he was completely over the moon. And there was a few of them like that. You got Moy, you've got a few other names that I can't remember now. And working with them was just fun and creative. And again, it was just that whole case of thinking on the spot and thinking, I am losing their attention. What can I do to bring them back to me? So it will be little things like, okay, so we're learning about verbs. So these are actions. So I'll basically just get them all to stand up and have each one call out an action, and everyone else has to repeat. So whether it's run, whether it's clap, whether it's jump, whether it's supposedly sit down came down as a verb, which I guess it is. But yeah, so it's just all of these fun activities. Or it's just like even sitting down and it's like, okay, I've got these kids that are like 3 to 5 years old or 3 to 6 year olds. They're learning their ABC and I'm losing their attention. What can I do? And I made a little game where we just sort of had little cards that said A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Split them, gave them out between the kids. So each kid had like 4 or 5 cards each. And then I'll just call out a letter, and then they'll have, it's like who was first, who, not even who was first, who has that letter that I've called out. And then they basically had to either remember what it sounded like or remember what it looks like. And that was a great way to basically help them learn. And I remember when I started working with Ty, when he said his ABC, he started off fine and he finished fine, but somewhere along the middle, all his letters were wrong, basically. And by the end of the 2-3 weeks, he could say his ABC all the way to Z. And that was such an amazing thing to sort of see him. And learning has to be fun. Learning needs to be engaging. It needs to be stimulating. It can't be strict and rigged. And that was one thing, I got to the point where after the first week of teaching, I was like, I need to get a bit more structure with this. So I started to create lesson plans, think out what have we covered the day before, how can I develop on this, how can I make things interesting for these kids. And then you get into the school and you be like, okay, I've got this lesson plan, I know what I want to teach them, but I need to tailor it to how they're feeling right now. I need to tailor it to the attention that I have from them. And I feel like I discovered a lot more about myself in how I interact with people. And I always just thought I'm okay with interacting, but interacting with the kids in the secondary school, that was one thing. You know, they're an older bunch. They're like 15, 16, and I managed to sort of build a connection with them. And then doing it again with the kids in the younger school. And in this orphanage, at least in Ghana, they understood English to some degree, although my English was a bit too difficult for them to understand sometimes. But in this orphanage, English was something that a lot of these younger kids were still learning. And you had some kids in the class who were just amazingly talented at learning English, and they could help with the translation for the younger kids. Um, and like, I would never say I did not regret anything I did. I feel like each experience was just rewarding. You know, just from taking pictures with the kids, from laughing with the kids. I drew the line at playing games. Like, I don't play football and all that sort of stuff. So it was like, okay, go to that other volunteer. She can kick the ball with you. Come to me and we can make a song about ABC or something. So I had the things that I didn't necessarily do. But it was a great experience. A bit more about Cambodia. So I was there for 3 weeks. On the weekends, I travelled about. I saw Angkor Wat, went to Siem Reap, went to Sikonville, Korong. And I would just say it's such an easy place to get around. All of these locations are. Even in Ghana, Cape Coast was an amazing experience. But it's such an easy place to get around. Never feel like you can't travel. Just know destination and find a bus service and go with the flow. And I'll probably say in Cambodia, have an idea of how long your journey is going to take, so you can sort of set your alarm to wake you up maybe 30 minutes before that time or an hour before that time, just so that you don't end up missing your stop because they forget to tell you to get off. But yes, Cambodia was an amazing experience, and I'll now move on to the next video.